G'day guys, welcome to the land of dragons.
Komodo National Park is one of the jewels of Indonesia, made up of 26 small islands and 3 larger ones, Padar, Rinca and of course Komodo Island. It covers over 1,700 square kilometres, but only 603 of those are land. It was declared one of the new 7 wonders of the world.
We're here on Rinca Island, one of the 6 islands in Komodo National Park that are home to these absolute units. This here is of course the great beast themselves. This is the Komodo Dragon, the largest lizard species in the world.
The Komodo Dragon is the largest terrestrial reptile in the world, with the biggest measuring in over 3 meters long and weighing over 100 kilos. The biggest ever recorded weighed 166 kilograms or 366 pounds. That is massive. Their scales have small bones in them called osteoderms, which act as almost a natural chainmail reinforcing the dragon's scales. These definitely come in handy, and you'll see why later.
Now, their eyesight's pretty poor, but their sense of smell is superb. One of the best senses of smell probably out of any in the animal kingdom.
The Komodo uses its long, pale tongue to taste and smell. They have what's called a Jacobson's organ in the roof of their mouth that helps them to process all of the information that the tongue picks up. This process allows the dragons to smell prey up to nearly 10 kilometers away, or 6 miles, with a favourable wind. This is particularly impressive given the islands of Komodo National Park are mountainous and full of valleys. It also comes in handy as the only animal that serves as a threat to the dragon is other dragons. Their strong sense of smell helps them to steer clear of bigger, more dangerous dragons. Mainly though, it helps locate their main prey items, deer, buffalo, and of course, wild boar.
This guy, I can see from here, has been in a couple of fights. He's got some blood on his neck, some bites taken out of him on the side here. This is a relatively young male, but some of the ones we've found in other parts of the park have been monsters.
You can see this huge male making use of that tongue, flicking it out as he moves, sensing all around him. Being the breeding season, there could be plenty of other dragons around, male or female.
Behind me here is one of the Komodo nests. Now this whole mound is full of these holes that the Komodos use to lay their eggs in. Now the females will lay up to 30-ish eggs at a go. This is right now is right in the middle of the breeding season. So these mounds, in another couple of months, females will be all around them. As they've laid their eggs, they'll be protecting these nests like nothing else. Right now though, they're out, well, breeding. So these mounds actually aren't made by the Komodos. They're opportunistic in terms of where they nest. These mounds are made by bird species here. I think it's one of the guinea fowls, and they spend 15 years building these huge mounds, and then in come the Komodo, and they just, of course, you know, when you've got a lizard that big, any bird's going to say, nah, I'm out of here, see ya. The Komodos come in, they claim them, and they end up looking like this. At the moment, outside of the breeding season, these nests have a very different use. They become Komodo hotels. You know, you'll find, for example, just down here, you'll just find a Komodo will have stuck his head in, the rest of his body will be laying out the top. Very, very bizarre look. It's a little something actually like this.
Here's a great example of a large, sleeping Komodo. They find nest holes just like this one that are barely large enough for them, and that's where they spend the night. This guy's been in a fight recently, and given the small amounts of blood on him, I reckon he probably came out on top.
Females will guard their nests for up to about 3 months, but after that they leave it alone. The babies hatch very small, of course, compared to the big ones. You know, they've got a lot of growing to do. But because Komodos are cannibalistic, you know, you're walking around the park, you hear tourists ask, oh, so do the babies know their father? Do they know their mother? No, never. Because the mum and the dad will eat those baby Komodos. Easy as looking at them. So those baby Komodos actually spend most of their early months up in the trees, up in the treetops. That's the only way they can escape from the bigger Komodos. So until they get to about 20 kilos, they'll spend their time up in the trees, and then eventually they'll come down and try to, you know, spend the rest of their time avoiding other Komodos as much as possible.
Young dragons have got vastly different coloration from the adults. This little fella is a pretty good example of that too. You can see his much redder neck and a bit of yellow around his sides. As he gets bigger, those colours will start to fade and he'll take on the stone grey of the adults. He's managed to startle some macaques, which you can hear in the background. They'll keep calling until he leaves the area.
The males and the females have very different lifespans. Males live for 50 to 60 years. Females actually as little as 25 to 35 years. There's a huge disparity in those. And that's why one of the reasons the females are a lot smaller and maybe they live such shorter lives is because they've got to spend so much time looking after these nests and these eggs. Because during that 2 to 3 months they barely eat. They starve and they get very thin, very weak. After that they can't do it for any longer. They go out and find food again. But this being a nest area, just being very watchful, making sure there are none coming near. Don't want to get surprised by a big dragon. I don't know if you can see in the camera though, but there's probably, I'd say, over 10 of these little holes. Well, little holes, they're quite big holes that the Komodos use. Females will sleep in the nest that they want to keep. You know, they'll come back to the same nest year after year if they can. But at nesting time, in breeding season, it's the male's turn to fight. Nesting time, the females will fight over the best nesting spots. I mentioned during the breeding season the males will come together to fight over the affections of the females, the rights to breed. And we were incredibly lucky to spot just that only yesterday. Walking through the park and suddenly, bam! 2 huge dragons fighting it out. Check it out.
These titanic meetings are truly an awe-inspiring sight. These 2 large males have been going at it for nearly half an hour now. The amount of blood making that pretty clear too. They size each other up before slamming their massive bodies into each other. The strongest quite literally coming out on top. After that explosive effort, there's a lull. The one on top gets in a few good scratches, and here's where the osteoderms come in handy, offering just some protection from those huge claws. But still, check out the size of those wounds. Having fought off the competition, his battle was only half done. Is the female in the mood? Komodos use some pretty unorthodox methods to woo potential partners. Males need to make the most of this opportunity before a bigger, stronger male comes along and pushes him away. This guy is pretty big by Komodo standards though, so he should be okay. Eventually, he is successful and manages to mate with the female. The loser, on the other hand, we find late that night sleeping in a nest hole. Still covered in blood, he'll have to take some time to recover. But will it be in time to find a mate? Returning to Rincha Island the next morning, we happen to find our champion still entwined with his lover. Despite his win, he'll continue to be challenged over the coming days. As long as he can see off other potential suitors, these two lovers will stay together for the next 3 to 5 days. This younger male was not so eager once he realised just how much bigger the other male was. And I tell you what, I would not want to mess with that guy either.
Sorry, young Komodo, this is not your time. You're still under level. I mean, I'm incredibly lucky to be able to come out here to Komodo, the Indonesian archipelago, to find these amazing animals. But that doesn't mean that your national parks at home might not have some incredible wildlife too. National parks all over the world are home to some incredible nature. The plant life, the wildlife, even just the landscapes. Some of them are absolutely out of this world. If you get the chance, head on out. Get down to a national park, have a wander, trek for a morning, a day, however long. See what you can find. There's some amazing stuff all over the world that we can all share. Get out there, get wild, and you never know what you might find. Thanks for joining us, guys, and we'll see you next time. Woohoo!
Over my time in Komodo, I saw so much variety of life besides just the dragons. This place has provided me with some of my greatest wildlife experiences yet. But it's important to note that all of this is under threat. The changing climate, the pet trade, plastic in our seas, and just some of the things threatening the unique ecosystems that make Komodo National Park so special. Talking to some of the local guides, plastic was the one that came up time and time again. Sadly, that was plain to see. Walking up one of the hills on Padar Island, we were met with this view. Reducing our plastic use is a great place to start in trying to save these islands and their inhabitants. Together, we can all play a role in combating these issues and safeguarding the Komodo dragon for future generations to witness and enjoy.